Hello, myself Rajendra Shetty, Assistant Professor at Ganpat Parsikar College of Education, Harmal, Goa. Title of the unit, Introduction to Plant Breeding. Module name, Important Achievements and Undesirable Consequences of Plant Breeding. Outline, defines the term plant breeding, understands important achievements of plant breeding, and realizes its undesirable consequences. Learning outcomes, definition of plant breeding, understanding important achievements of plant breeding, and knowing its undesirable consequences. What is plant breeding? Plant breeding is the art and science of genetic improvement of crop for the benefit of mankind. Its main focus is on global food security and fight against hunger. Important achievements of plant breeding are improvement of crop yield, improvement of crop quality, development of semi-dwarf varieties of cereals, mainly wheat and rice, hybrid varieties of millets, nobilization of Indian canes, development of hybrid cotton varieties, development of transgenic crop varieties, and molecular breeding. Improvement of crop yield. In mid 20th century, with the beginning of the Green Revolution, the world saw a progressive increase in yield of all the major crops. As you can see in the graph, from 1961 to 2009, all the three major crops of the world, that is wheat, rice and maize, showed twofold increase in the yield. Improvement in crop quality. Significant achievements have been made in improving various qualities of crop plants. Examples: resistant crop varieties have been developed to various biotic and abiotic stresses. Sugarcane and sugar beet varieties have been developed with high sugar content. Fruits and vegetable varieties have been developed with attractive features and good keeping quality. Semi-dwarf varieties of cereals. One of the major achievements of plant breeding program has been development of semi-dwarf varieties of cereals, especially wheat and rice. It has greatly increased and stabilized wheat and rice production in many countries of the world, including India. Semi-dwarf varieties of wheat were developed by Norman Barlow and his associates while working at Cement Institute, Mexico. They used Norin 10, a Japanese variety, as a source of dwarfing gene. Semi-dwarf varieties developed showed many qualities such as high yield, lodging resistant, fertilizer responsive, photoinsensitivity, resistant to major diseases like rust, and many were suitable for late planting. In 1963, ICR obtained several of these varieties from Cement Institute, Mexico, and introduced them in India. Kalyan Sona and Sonalika were selected from these varieties. A great majority of semi-dwarf varieties are now grown in India. Semi-dwarf varieties of rice. D. Juavujan, a dwarf early maturing variety of Japonica rice, was used as a dwarfing source, and from these two semi-dwarf varieties were produced, that is Taichung Native 1 or TN1 developed in Taiwan and IR8 developed in International Rice Research Institute, Philippines. These showed very good qualities such as high yield, lodging resistant, fertilizer responsive, and photoinsensitive. In 1966, TN1 and IR8 were introduced in India. Later, these varieties were replaced by superior semi-dwarf varieties like Jaya, Ratna, etc. developed in India. Hybrid varieties of millets. Hybrid varieties of maize, jawar, and bajra have been developed through plant breeding program. Hybrid maize varieties like Manjari, Vikram, Sona, Vivek, Maize Hybrid 9, Vivek QPM 9 has been developed in India. These varieties give almost 40% more yield than local open pollinated varieties. Hybrid jawar varieties like CSH2, CSH3, CSH4, CSH5, CSH6, etc. have been developed through plant breeding program. Hybrid bajra varieties like PHB10, PHB14, BJ140 has etc. has been developed. Nobilization of Indian canes. Dr. C.A. Babar and his associate at Sugarcane Breeding Institute, Coimbatore, India, were instrumental in nobilization of Indian canes. Indian cane of Saccharum barbarii origin were hardy but had thin stem and were low in sugar content. They transferred desirable characters like thick stem, high sugar content from noble cane of Saccharum officinarum origin to Indian cane. This is referred as nobilization of Indian canes. Transfer of disease-resistant and other desirable traits from wild species Saccharum spontaneum to cultivated sugarcane varieties was carried out through plant breeding program. This is one of the remarkable achievement of plant breeding. Hybrid cotton. India has achieved the distinction of commercially exploiting heterosis in cotton. Several hybrid varieties have been developed which are high yielding and have good fiber quality. Examples H6, JKH1, Godavari, Sugana, Savitri, Jayalakshmi, etc. Transgenic varieties. Many essential transgenic traits have been incorporated in several crops through transgene technology. Such crops are referred as designer crops. For example, golden rice was developed by inserting daffodil phytoin synthase gene into Asia indigenous rice cultivar. Also, several insect-resistant BT cotton transgenic varieties are developed and cultivated in India since 2002. Molecular breeding. Nowadays, molecular biology techniques such as marker-assisted selection are used to achieve plant breeding objectives. It helps in saving lot of time as well as money which is required by conventional plant breeding method. Example, improved Pusa, Basmati 1 and improved Samba, Masuri, bacterial leaf blight resistant rice varieties have been developed through molecular breeding program. Undesirable consequences of plant breeding. It includes genetic erosion, narrow genetic base, increased susceptibility to minor diseases, and yield plateau. Genetic erosion. Gradual reduction in genetic variability due to elimination of various genotypes from a population is called genetic erosion. As you can see in the picture, it results due to replacement of land races or heterogeneous local varieties by few homogeneous improved varieties. Also, use of similar or related varieties as parents in breeding program can lead to genetic erosion. Narrow genetic base. Genetic base is defined as the genetic variability present among the cultivated varieties of a crop species. Improved varieties of crop species mostly have commonness of one or more parents in their ancestry, which leads to narrowing down of the genetic base of these varieties. The narrow genetic base leads to genetic vulnerability. Cultivated varieties of crop species becomes more susceptible to disease, insect pests or some other stress. For example, outbreak in epidemic proportion of southern leaf blight of maize in 1970 in USA. This occurred due to extreme susceptibility of most of the commercial hybrids to a new T-race of leaf blight pathogen Helminthosporium myadis. Increase susceptibility to minor diseases. Plant breeding program mainly focuses on developing varieties for resistance to major diseases and insect pests. This slowly results in an increased susceptibility to minor diseases. In some cases, they have produced severe epidemics. Example, epidemic caused by Botrytis cinerea in chickpea during 1980-81 and 81-82 crop seasons in Punjab, Haryana, parts of UP and Bihar. Yield plateau. The variability for yield in a crop species gets exhausted and no further yield increases are obtained through breeding. That is, yield reaches a plateau. Such plateaux were evident in wheat and rice yield before the exploitation of semi-dwarfing genes and are being experienced once again in the cultivated varieties. Conclusion. As far as crop productivity is concerned, lot has been achieved through plant breeding program, but its adverse effects also cannot be ignored. Therefore, sustainable new approaches must be carefully adopted to boost crop productivity. These are the references. Thank you.